This is a live I am doing with Sujata. Those of you joining in from iThrive's channel, you know me. In case you don't know me, I'm Mugdha Pradhan. I'm the CEO and founder of iThrive. And at iThrive, we work primarily with chronic diseases. We work on reversing them. And in some cases, when people come to us early enough, we also work on preventing them. We also have an academy where we teach how to practice functional nutrition in case somebody wants to learn this. And we've also recently launched our own product range of supplements called iThrive Essentials. And today, Sujata and I are speaking about a topic that both of us really, really deeply align with. We're going to talk about key micronutrients for healthy periods. Given that in our own consulting, we see so many women who come to us with reproductive health problems. And Sujata, of course, works her entire life mission and vision, and the company that she's created, her baby, is around women's reproductive health. So, Sujata, why don't you introduce yourself and tell our viewers what is it that you do? Um, so I can't hear you, Sujata, again. And on Insta, I think you're frozen because. All right. Have you muted yourself on the laptop?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I didn't do anything.
Cool. It was just the internet glitch then. So go ahead, tell our viewers what is it that you do, and why is it that this is again a personal passion conversation for you?
Yes, thank you so much, and I'm so glad to be doing this with you again. Hello, everyone. My name is Sujata, and I'm the founder of Avni. Avni basically means Mother Earth, and what we're trying to do is detoxify the menstrual cycle of women, and in that process, also see if we can detoxify Mother Earth with our conscious products and the conscious ingredients that go in making those products. Our products are available on our website www.myavni.com. We also sell on major e-commerce platforms. Our flagship product is actually a cloth pad. So that is the first step which we want to take towards getting everybody to use a really reusable product, which is also eco-friendly and convenient for all of the women to use. A passion project, which actually it's actually growing into a big brand now, because I have been menstruating for 20 years, and whatever we do here is completely coming out of my personal experience and whatever I've heard and seen happening through this country. So really glad to be making this change in this market, which is a very hush topic. So glad to be here.
Super. I'm so happy to have. I think we both had done a live almost a year ago.
Yeah, it was
and
long
we
back. It
spoke
was long
about
back.
reproductive health. So,
Long back.
Sujata, what is this? So, this entire project that you kickstarted, the collective by My Avni, and the conversation that we're going to have now. What's the context? If you could just tell our viewers, and then we could go into the questions that you wanted to ask me.
Yes. So it was last year that we launched an initiative called Collective by Avni. What we're trying to do is bring together experts from different fields who, to some extent, touch the menstrual cycle of women. So right from gynecologists to pediatricians, to yoga experts, to psychologists, to nutritionists like you, who have some or the other role to play around this entire menstrual cycle of menstruators. So we want to bring all of them together on a platform so that we put out some good, credible, researched content on the topic, which is very, very less, and also give a support channel on our website so that anybody who wants to ask any questions or seek any clarifications on any of the topics concerning menstrual health, they can get in touch with our experts. So we already have a period helpline in place, which is a mobile number and it's accessible 24/7. So we already have a lot of women reaching out to us, and we kind of try to answer their questions with the guidance from our experts. but we are going to very soon open up a direct communication channel between you and the experts on our website, where you can directly put in questions and they will respond via email or via messages. So this entire project is basically to give an outlet, because a lot of things are there in our mind, but we don't know where to seek answers from.
Mm-hmm.
We read, and we're not sure if that's credible information. So it's best to hear it from the experts like you, and that's why we're doing this. So this live also is a part of the collective, wherein we choose some very common topics, common queries which everybody has, and we put out questions to you so that we can see clarification on everybody's behalf. So that is where we are at today, and that's why we are doing this live, which is maybe the first of its kind, and we will be doing a lot many going ahead.
Amazing. I love this initiative, and I'm so honored to be part of the collective, of course, because it's really great to have so many experts on board on one platform focused on women's health. And then, yeah, I'm the first live guest that you invited for the collective journey. I'm really so honored. Thank you so much. So let's dive in deep, because we're not going to take this, like, we're not going to go on for too long. We're going to keep this really short so that we can compress the information that we want to share. So let's go, Sujata. What is it that you wanted to ask?
So I think let's start with the basics first. We're going to talk about micronutrients. So just for all of our common understanding, if you can just throw some light on what are micronutrients and why are they called so? Why is it micro?
Got it. And it's such a good question, because everyone's talking of macros, and then people don't know what micronutrients are. It's basically something that's simply based on weight. So macronutrients are nutrients that your body needs in terms of grams, right? So 50 grams of protein if you're 50 kgs in weight, or whatever number of grams of fat that you need, or number of carbs that you are going to consume through the day, depending on whether you keto, whether you're doing a carb based protocol. So macronutrients are nutrients that you consume in larger volume, in grams, right? So 100 grams, 200 grams, 50 grams, 25 grams, whatever. Micronutrients are nutrients that you need in smaller quantities in micrograms. So even the measurement, like even the RDA, the recommended dietary allowance for these, are in micrograms. So that is like the biggest differentiator between what is a macronutrient and what is a micronutrient. The requirement of your body for macros are in actual grams. So they're macro, they're bigger. And micronutrients, your body needs them in micrograms and in trace amounts in some cases, in very, very tiny quantities in some cases. And that's why they're called micronutrients. It's that simple.
It's that simple. So then technically, going by this definition, they have to be really power packed, because they're doing a lot with that less quantity.
Yes, and see, these are very beautiful, because so there are so many, right? Like if you look at just B complex, for example, you have B1, B2, B3, and then like the list is never ending, and they're so tiny and they're so potent, and the deficiency of these can create so many problems and symptoms, and excess of these also can create so many problems and symptoms, so many, right? So we've seen so many cases where a magnesium deficiency was triggering episodes of depression, anxiety, sleeplessness, and all of that, like mental health issues, right? Which people think, I mean, they would go to a psychiatrist, they would get prescription medicines, and then you just add magnesium back into their diet and they start feeling better suddenly, because that magnesium is required at so many cells. Like it's not just at like a transport level. It's required right at the cell level where your energy production is happening. Right. I mean, I don't want to go too geek right now, but even at that ATP, they say mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. We've learned it in biology, but that's where magnesium is required. So a lot of these micronutrients work at that level. So the macros that you eat, eventually they get broken down and they also become honestly like micronutrients in the body. But these micronutrients, you consume them directly in that form, the body uses them at all different cellular levels. So they are very, very important. So people think that if they get enough calories, they'll have enough energy. They don't understand that if they don't have enough magnesium or B complex or zinc or even copper, that energy production process is not going to happen, because at an enzyme level, at a chemical catalyst level, you don't have the raw material that the body needs. So very important micronutrients are.
Okay, so let's get to period care now, or menstrual cycle. is there anything specific that is needed to keep this entire chain functioning properly, the entire series of events that happen to keep the menstrual health normal?
Yes.
Specific micronutrients, if you can just point out a few, which are essentially needed for everybody to
Yes.
manage their menstrual cycle properly. We'll talk about irregularities afterwards,
Sure.
but just general health, what does everybody need?
Even before we go to the micros, Sujata, just quickly I'll talk about the macros also, because a lot of women need to know this. So for your periods to see, women know that hormones and periods are correlated. Like every time you experience like your period, whether you have a problem or not, it's an entire harmony of hormones that's happening inside. To make these hormones, your body needs good quality saturated fat. It needs good quality protein, typically found in animal foods. Mostly we see long-term vegetarians do end up with reproductive health problems also. And it needs calories. So even with like, elite athletes and all of that, we see that women have period problems because their body is like just too much under stress because it's not enough calories. So calories can come either from carbohydrates, calories can come from fat. I personally prefer a good mix of carb, fat, and protein. That's more sustainable, like fruits and animal protein and saturated fat from ghee and butter. So these are important. Now coming down to the actual micronutrients, right, which is what we're going to talk about today, the invisible ones, the ones that you can't taste, or the ones that you can't say, oh, I'm eating like a carb right now, which is maybe an apple or a banana. So these micronutrients, let's start with the first one. I spoke of magnesium a couple of minutes ago.
Yeah.
When it comes to reproductive health, period health, magnesium is the most important micronutrient. I mean, forget people with health, like actual reproductive issues, even people who think they have a normal cycle, and the girls who experience cramps, right, like, which is normalized to a large degree, day one cramps and all. We've seen so many people for whom once magnesium comes into their system, right, like the right form of magnesium, they don't even experience those cramps. So magnesium is involved in contraction and relaxation of muscles. And during periods, the uterus is basically contracting and relaxing. Magnesium plays a very big role in relaxing and relieving those cramps that people experience, apart from the entire cellular functions where magnesium is required. So, micronutrient number one is magnesium when it comes to period health. The second one that I recommend women have enough of is zinc. So, zinc is another mineral. Zinc is something that the body needs. Like with COVID, zinc again became a little mainstream because people are like, oh, this is so important for immunity and all of that. But zinc is also required for your periods to function well. Even your health of the egg actually depends on how much zinc stores are there in the body. So magnesium, and while I was talking of magnesium, I forgot to show this. So I remember I told that we started manufacturing our own supplements and we have the essentials line. So we make magnesium as well after a lot of research and after a lot of work, and like after a lot of government regulations and licenses and everything, we finally got our magnesium out into the market a couple of months ago. So this form of magnesium, this magnesium glycinate is what the body does beautifully well, especially when it's being for reproductive health, right? So that's the magnesium I recommend. Coming back to zinc, so zinc is required for your reproductive health. Secondly, zinc is also required for what is known as your adrenal health. So your adrenals are the glands that make cortisol. That's the stress hormone. Your adrenals are the glands that kind of help your body respond to different kinds of stress, whether it's mental stress, emotional stress, or physical stress.
Yeah.
Zinc plays a very important role in the production of these adrenal hormones. It's one of the base raw materials that's needed. When we actually go through our entire period cycle, physiologically, it is slightly stressful to the woman's body, right? There are so many changes happening. And then most of the women in our modern day lives do have external stressors also coming in. So I found bringing zinc back either through food. So zinc you can get through food also. You don't need to always supplement with zinc if you're eating good quality animal food, like especially if someone is eating organ meats and all that, or even oysters, mussels. You'll get zinc from there. But often people don't eat enough quantities of that, so that's why we have to bring in supplements. So what we've seen is zinc helps combat even the depletion that some women experience during PMS. That that just that emotional exhaustion kind of a thing that happens trying to deal with the stressors that are coming your way. Um, then the third micronutrient that I recommend, like by default to everyone, is B complex. A good quality B complex supplement, because what happens with B complex, each of them, right? So we know B1, B2, B3. I don't want to get into the technicalities of each of these, like each form, but each kind of B vitamin has a different role to play in the body, from helping in energy production to actually helping with your neurotransmitter production. So neurotransmitters are
Okay.
your happy chemicals that the brain makes, right? So every time you finish checking off your to-do list, you'll get dopamine. Every time you connect with somebody you love, you'll get oxytocin. Every time you get like people when they do workouts or when they do like endurance events or when they experience pain and they recover from that, they get um, endorphins from the brain. Sometimes you'll release serotonin, which is one of the best feel good hormones that you could have, right? So these
Yeah.
neurotransmitters are made by the brain, some of them are also made by the gut. But your B complex vitamins are the precursors to a lot of these neurotransmitters. So if you have
Okay.
deficiencies of these, apart from your physiological functions, which is your nerve transmission, which is your pain signaling, even your hormone production, even your mental health can get impacted by these deficiencies. And we all know, like the pre-period phase, that 1 week, we've discussed this even in our past life, where
Yeah.
like I personally refer to that as the goddess week, right? Like everything that's needs to be fixed comes up very, very clear, like okay, fix this,
Very,
fix
very
this, fix
clear.
this. You want to say many words that might not be appropriate for a live multiple times in the day during that week. But this bringing in B complex really helps calm the storm. You'll still be able to look at things that need to be fixed and all of that without having the unnecessary energy draining kind of responses, and your body will actually recuperate faster also. So
Okay.
B complex, and then the fourth one is vitamin D. Again, vitamin D became
Mm.
very, very mainstream with COVID because everyone, like it, people started talking about it, right? Like vitamin D deficiencies
Correct.
were making COVID outcomes really bad and all of that. But vitamin D is not just about immunity. Vitamin D, it's called a vitamin D, but if I have to look at it, no, it's really like a hormone that engages at so
Yeah.
many levels in the body. And it's been found that women with
Yes.
vitamin D deficiencies actually end up over time with reproductive health issues also. So the fourth
Okay.
micronutrient that I would bring in into every woman's everyday supplementation protocol would be vitamin D. Again, with vitamin D, we've manufactured our own, and this one is combined with K2. So this is vitamin D and K2 together. Oh, it's inverted on my screen, but anyway,
It's inverted.
yeah, we'll put the correct one on our stories. Um, but this is D3 and K2 in combination because you need K2 for actual absorption of D3. So a lot of people go over the counter and buy that 60,000 international units of vitamin D sachets and do a weekly protocol. It's dangerous to take high doses of vitamin D like that, because when you take a high dose of vitamin D like that, it impacts your calcium balance, and then you could end up with bone issues later in life, or you could end up with kidney stones because a lot of calcium got pulled out of your bones because of the excess vitamin D, and that's going and forming kidney stones, right? So it's better to take smaller doses of vitamin D in a more regular basis,
More
on a more regular
long.
basis, and then
Correct.
we've added K2 to ours because in our research and everything we found that K2 helps in maximum absorption of D3.
D3.
So
Yes.
vitamin D is the fourth one, and if someone's not eating seafood, if someone's not eating fish or prawns, or if they're not getting omega 3 from their diet, I personally prefer getting omega 3 fatty acids. Again, a lot of people take fish oil supplements. Omega 3 again has become mainstream, I think, in the last couple of years. So omega 3 is anti-inflammatory and it prevents any kind of inflammation, right? So we've seen it work wonderfully well, especially when someone has health complications or even reproductive health issues where there's some level of inflammation happening. So omega 3 is anti-inflammatory, it maintains cellular health, it maintains cellular structure. In the end, even your egg is a single cell. So it helps in
Correct.
maintaining all of these internal cell linings. It helps in maintaining the structures of your tissues really well. So omega 3, if you're not getting it from your food, then you should supplement, especially if you're vegan and vegetarian. Then my recommendation is supplementing it, and then we did our omega 3s with krill oil.
Krill oil.
Yeah, because unlike fish oil, krill oil doesn't go rancid. The fats inside that don't break down, and then there's no mercury. So you know this. I mean, the entire work you do is around eliminating toxins from the chain that's going in. So a lot of fish oil that's out in the market has very high levels of mercury, which can then cause other health problems. So magnesium, B complex, zinc, vitamin D, omega 3s are my basic recommendations. If you're not getting enough of that from food, you need to supplement with these, even if you have the most healthy period cycle. Apart from that, uh, what I urge a lot of women to monitor is their sodium, potassium, and calcium intake, because these are electrolytes. And these, I mean, calcium is not an electrolyte, but it's a mineral that plays a role in the entire water regulation, retention, and all of that. But sodium, potassium, if the balance is off, you'll experience a bloating and the extra water retention and all of that. So if you're either dehydrated or if you're overhydrated, that can cause electrolyte resultant imbalances. But these you don't need supplements. Like sodium, so you'll get from salt. Potassium, you just have coconut water once a day and it'll fix it. And calcium, make sure you're like, if you're not intolerant to dairy, then you can have yogurt and raw milk and cheese. Otherwise, if dairy doesn't work, but you're open to animal foods, then you could do bone broth, because that's a really, really super source of not just calcium, collagen, and so many other nutrients that help heal our bones and everything. So I think I quickly covered the micronutrients that are important. Um, let's, like, if you want to, we could move into the issues that
let's
people
talk
face.
about the irregularities, and the most common one which we see these days is PCOS, or polycystic ovaries syndrome disease. What are the major micronutrient deficiencies that we found, or is it a mixture of all of these?
So with PCOD, PCOS, what we've seen, the root cause often is insulin resistance itself, which then triggers the PCOD, PCOS. Sometimes the cysts could be pathogenic in nature, like viral bacterial nature, like your body is just trying to kind of cage these viruses and bacteria in a place. Sometimes it could be toxin induced. We've seen all three causes. So these, the ones that I discussed earlier, anyway, are the base ones that we give everybody, right? But let's say someone has insulin resistance, and then because of that, there's a lot of oxidative damage and a lot of oxidative stress. Then we might bring in other nutrients like NAC and glutathione. So this gets a little complex. These are not really deficiencies as such, as much as micronutrients that will kind of help in repair work. So you fix the primary root cause. If it's pathogens, then you do antiviral, antibacterial work with herbs and all of that to kind of bring that load down. If it's toxins, then of course we first eliminate the source of toxins from personal care products. I mean, that's where people like you really play such a big role. And then if it's insulin resistance, we work on reversing that, right? So eliminating seed oils, bringing in good quality fat, helping the biochemical pathways improve. Sometimes if there's a chromium deficiency, which is again a micronutrient, there could be insulin issues. But if we see that, then we might recommend chromium. But most of the micronutrients that we bring in case of these complex issues, are from a repair perspective, not so much from a deficiency perspective.
Okay. So then, if I have understood it correctly, it's micronutrients is one part which needs to be fixed in PCOS. There's a lot of other things going on.
Yes.
Are there other irregularities? Like, for example, just regular, we see that some women have a lot of pain. So just, it's a slightly unimaginary kind of pain. So can that be corrected by just improving the micronutrient profile a bit?
Not with just micronutrient profile. It helps, like correcting deficiencies plays a big role. But let's say somebody comes to us not maybe with full endometriosis, but where somewhere, like, the endometrial lining has gotten inflamed and that's triggering the pain. So in that case, then you have to work on the inflammation itself, right? So these nutrients help for sure in bringing the inflammation down, but then a lot more work is done with food and other herbs and all of that to bring it down. Sometimes we get people with like polyps, which are not really cysts, but they could form anywhere even in the vaginal canal, and then these cause bleeding randomly, right? So
Yes.
again, there what we've seen is supplementing with these micronutrients helps the body become more resilient. So even if the woman has to undergo surgery for polyp removal, she recovers really quick.
Okay.
So yeah, so it's not one linear way, right? It's a multi-pronged system anyway inside our body, and then helping fix deficiencies and bringing these micronutrients always gives the body a lot more stability than it might have had originally to deal with whatever else is happening.
All right.
Yeah.
Any other irregularity you feel we should talk about, which is a little more linked to the micronutrient deficiencies, or everything has a more holistic approach?
So typically, now when somebody comes to us with clinical issues, it's very rarely just one thing. It really is very rare,
Yeah,
right? It's
yeah.
multifactorial. So sometimes, in some cases, these women have been on OCPs, birth control pills, and stuff like that, and then that has dysregulated the hormone cycle. That has dysregulated even like sometimes the ovaries and everything kind of, because it's such an overload of hormones coming in from outside.
Hormones, yes.
Sometimes, even like it doesn't have to be necessarily meds or anything physical. It could simply be some other kind of trauma, right? Like emotional trauma. Sometimes in cases of sexual abuse, also we actually see that the physical reproductive health itself takes a downward turn because the mind is trying to process that trauma, and it gets trapped, energy gets trapped there. Um, then the other thing, so Janki, who's our academy student, is asking this good question. What about estrogen dominance? So the estrogen dominance is, again, it can happen because too much of external estrogen came in from your food and your BPA and the
Milk at times.
milk and everything. So much from milk doesn't come. I've seen that like now research papers are showing that soy actually can trigger even worse estrogen dominance. And then
Okay.
the actual toxins, right? So like your non-stick pans, your plastics, and all of that, that can trigger more of an estrogen dominance. So if that is happening, and that's the root cause, then we kind of help mitigate that, right? So it needs more work around detoxification. Again, nutrients become important there. Then we have to help the liver open up its detox pathways. We have to help the liver with that conversion, the estrogen conversion and elimination, the aromatase pathways, and all of that. So, like I said earlier, it's multi-pronged. What other clinical issues? So most women come to us with PCOD, PCOS,
Yeah, that's common.
endometriosis. Also, they come to us for support, and then polyps, fibroids. Uh, we've seen that in some cases, just working with food and these nutrients and eliminating anything that's triggering inflammation in the body. Actually, with one recent case, we saw the size of the fibroid actually had become smaller compared to before. Right? Like the body became a little more resilient in dealing with whatever was going on. So fibroids, and then polyps I mentioned. Um, what other? So again, the standard water retention, PMS getting really difficult to deal with. The physical symptoms of PMS, the headaches, the absolute energy crashes, all of that. I mean, that's like standard stuff that comes to us.
Actually, there's one interesting thing I wanted to share when we talk about sodium intake.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, we should actually regulate that. So it is actually associated with a very big myth that all of us have been living with, and that's don't touch the pickle because it will turn. The pickle. So what I feel is, and what would have happened in those days is, our grandmothers maybe just to limit the intake of sodium actually during those days, they might have told us to not eat pickle, but you can't tell kids not to eat pickle and then they do it. They would have exactly done the opposite.
But you know what I
So
found?
maybe
Like this.
so maybe they would have told us that the pickle will turn bad, so you don't have to touch it, and that is how they prevented us from having more sodium.
I know, right? Like, why couldn't they just say use science like it's salty and don't eat instead of inducing this fear for generations?
कौन बच्चे सुनते हैं यार? When have kids listened to parents and grandparents like this? ये मत करो, and then नहीं करेंगे. So
But
I think
you know what, Sujata?
Implemented.
So what we are seeing in research now is like even earlier when we were taught nutrition, it was like your sodium intake is what causes bloating, water retention, salt and water bind, and everything. we're seeing it's not so much sodium as much as insulin, that like insulin and insulin resistance, and that mess up as much, that triggers an entire water retention and bloating thing as much as sodium. So salt is actually okay. We have a physiological need for it. Like even animals have salt licks, and like they go and consume salt, right? So salt is really important. But if the salt, potassium, insulin, all of that is messed up, then during periods, then it becomes more difficult. That's why it's important to assess, right? Like maybe you're just dehydrated and now there's excess sodium in your serum, and that's causing the mess. So instead of like consuming more water, you end up cutting down on salt.
Yeah.
That's why blood work becomes important. That's why we base everything that we do on blood tests and we take it from there.
Yeah. Great. So I think we've covered most of it. I want to keep it really short so we can conclude this one. And thank you so much again for all the insights and your time. I'm sure somebody had put the website link also where you can get these supplements.
Yes.
If you want to repeat, we can just.
So the website link. So what we have now is magnesium, which is like the nutrient number one that everyone needs for their periods, and then D3K2. I spoke about it. If you're watching this at some later point of time, you just joined the live. You can go watch the recording again and see why D3K2 is important. And omega 3. These are the three that we have. The others that I spoke of, B complex and zinc and all that. You could order the brands that we have on our website. These are not our own brand, but these are some of the most like really good quality ones. For those of you that want to go to the website to buy these, the website link is iThrive.shop. It's https iThrive.shop. If any of you want to consult with me or my team with your particular reproductive health issues, you could just go to ithriveinc.com and book a consult from there. Or you could just DM us on Insta and the team will reach out to you, or DM us on Facebook and we'll get back to you. But Avni, Sujata, I looked at the screen. I was like, Avni there, right? So Sujata, if somebody wants to buy your product, because for those of you who are watching this, the reason why Sujata and I actually started talking to each other is she has this amazing line of products that are absolutely toxin free and safe for women's health, like from all perspectives. So you want to show some of your products?
Yes. So again, it's.
Yeah, that's on Insta, it's reverse, but on the other
this is how our products look like. Yeah, this is how our products look like. This is our organic cotton disposable pad. Comes with a disposal bag. So you have individual disposal bags for each, like this. Then we have actually the flagship product is a reusable pad. So it's India's first antimicrobial cloth pad, which you can wash and reuse for 3 years. And it's a laboratory tested product, so there's no worry of hygiene or infections or anything. We also have another innovative product, which is a wash. It is a 100% natural plant-based detergent. It's a liquid detergent, which you can use for washing all your period wears. It can be cloth pads, it can be your period panties or your panty liners. So it is specifically formulated to take out blood stains and odor, which is something that regular detergents are not built for. We have a range of menstrual cups, menstrual cup washes, intimate wipes, which are again antimicrobial. So there's a whole range. Our website is www.myavni.com, where you can find us. And of course, the other e-commerce platforms like Amazon, Flipkart, Smitten, Woobly, a lot of them now. Do reach out, and our helpline also is mentioned on our handle. It's a mobile number, so if you have any queries, concerns before even buying the product, you can get in touch with our team and they'll help you through that. So,
lovely.
All right.
Awesome. This was great.
Thank you so much. This was great. Let's connect again soon.
Let's connect again soon.
Thank you so much, all of you, for joining.
Thank you, everyone.